Since it's 4:45, we can call this meeting of the Community Resources and Tourism Committee to order. Let the roll show that all of the committee members are in attendance and here live in person. So we're glad to see that. We're going to have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Are there any changes or things?
Second.
Any comments or changes to the meeting minutes? Not all in favor of approving minutes as is, say aye.
Aye.
Public comments. Do we have any public comments or people here to comment? Nope. Okay. Then we are going to move on to staff report, and we are going to guess we're going to have Katie talk to us today as our extension educator and give a report. Enter on your mic, please.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yes.
There we go. Good, Michelle. Okay, Michelle's doing some work for me. So thank you very much for having me this evening. I'm not sure if I met everybody. I am Katie Wantock. I am the agriculture educator and have been with Dunn County Extension for almost 12 years as of in the middle of July here. So Michelle graciously helped me to prepare the extension reports. She provided you with copies of that. It just went out in the mail and email this morning as well. And so I'm just going to provide you with a little bit of highlights, what I've been working on for the past couple months. And then as you'll see on the front page, talk about a transition out of Dunn County. So there it goes. So my role, it has primarily been around two program areas in Dunn County. My background is in farm management. I have a master's in business. And so my program areas have primarily been in farm financial and risk management. But this position also had an emphasis in economic development as well. So, but we do have a strong partnership with fellow extension educators in Chippewa County, and that educator has primarily focused on crops and soils, and so has worked with farmers in Dunn County if there's questions. Also, the educator in Eau Claire County has primarily worked on dairy and livestock, and so fields questions there as well that I'm not able to answer right away, and also does research and outreach education in those areas. So in the past couple of months, I have been working on what's called the Farm Pulse curriculum. In extension, we had some large 4-inch binders, I think, of written curriculum that was done probably a decade ago. And so we've been in the process of transitioning that into online courses. And so utilizing what UW has for learning management system of Canvas. And so financial management and analysis is the primary program that is almost completed, and we're set to pilot that here late summer. That project was primarily funded with an extension risk management educational grant to work with instructional designers within Madison, as well as extension farm management program funding to help with our translation of some of our written materials into Hmong and Spanish as well. So we have those out on the website, and it's linked there should you be interested in going to it in the future. Our next project that just received funding, we had initial funding from Compeer Fund for America grant that kind of got us started on grade marketing. We've taken a pause to finish the financial management, but we've just received funding from the Agriculture Institute to restart that project up. And so we'll have a similar course coming with materials this fall, and we'll pilot that this winter going forward. So the other project that Michelle really helps me with is called the Agrivision podcast series. And so I work with fellow educators from across the state. I write a column for the Wisconsin Agriculturalist magazine. And what we do is kind of take the questions that are received from farmers and record those into podcast series. So we have 32 episodes that have been published. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google, and Spotify. To date, well, as of March, beginning of March, it was 1,100 plays from listeners across the US as well as across the world. So it's getting some great reach. And if we can continue it, and we'll try and work on a little more promotion, hopefully that reach, of course, will intensify. Also, since the beginning of the year, we have coordinated for ag professionals, the Western Wisconsin Ag Lenders Conference, a full day to provide them with information and hot topics. And February, March, we worked with the Dunn County farmers to provide the pesticide applicator educational training. And then also would proctor the exams for the Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection. But one-on-one, I also meet with farmers. I just listed a couple things that I met with farmers since the beginning of the year on to really work with them one-on-one. Now, on the ag economic development side, we just finished hosting, and I helped with the Dunn County Dairy Breakfast at Breezy Haven Farms up near Bloomer, where over 1,200 people visited the farm to attend the dairy breakfast. Hopefully, they got a chance, like Supervisor Bjork here, to walk around the farm and see what a current dairy operation looks like, learn about a little bit about their conservation practices and those kind of things. So. We are also coordinating the farmers out at the fair in July. And I think Michelle hopefully, Michelle, I won't take any credit for this design. She designed this flyer. She's a fantastic at that. But we had money left over from a farmers night out event that was planned for March of 2020, I'm sorry. And unfortunately, of course, that event was canceled and we've not been able to rehold the event. We have some gift certificates and a lot of donated funds that are sitting in our Extension Dunn County account. So we brainstormed with Farm Bureau, and Michelle had this great idea to let's, try and provide an opportunity for farmers to come to the fair. So we're able to provide them with a season pass, food stand gift certificates to the Dunn County 4-H and Farm Bureau food stands, and also they'll be entered into prizes, which will be drawn after the fair. So great opportunity and use of the existing funds we've been kind of carrying over within Extension. Finally, my transition of duties. So I have accepted it's a new statewide position. And will be the new farm management professor of practice. This will focus on farm financial and risk management for commodity and specialty crop farms across the entire state of Wisconsin. So I will be working remotely. Hopefully, Jason Hausler, our Extension Director Interim, is going to work on a contract for me to stay in Dunn County and to be housed here, working remotely. So, but I'll start that in July. I leave on Friday for the International Farm Management Congress in Copenhagen, Denmark, where I'll be presenting the research and a project we did with Extension professionals on motivational interviewing. Yeah. So with that, that's my presentation, a recap of the work that I've been doing and what's to come. So I've enjoyed my time with the Dunn County. Like I said, it's almost 12 years, but taking on a new opportunity statewide to hopefully help farmers as well. So.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And wish you luck. And once again, hate to see someone of your caliber be leaving Dunn County, but the state's going to be better off for that. So
thank you.
And also congratulations on the trip to Denmark, because I guess that's a pretty big feather in your cap too, to get that recognition and have that trip over there too. So
yes, thank you. Yes.
So what will then Extension be looking for? Again, somebody that's going to fill your existing position here in Dunn County, as far as being like the ag educator, that type of thing. So
I will. I'm not sure if Jason wants to answer that now, or if you would like to answer that later, but I can't speak to that.
I'll pass it over to Jason after, maybe after, if anybody else, does anybody else have any questions for Katie?
I just have a question or a comment, Mr. Chairman. Katie's moving into this position reminds me, I don't want to use the term extension of old, but prior to recent years in Extension, it wasn't uncommon to have a university professor at your dairy cattle judging contest, an Extension specialist, or Jim Crowley, or any of these guys, or the beef guys judging. We just really need to get talented people, hands-on, back meeting with people instead of all this remote stuff, because you help out somebody, they're with you for life.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make much difference, I don't think, if you're helping a family transition, a new member in, or you're just there to show a 4-H kid how to hold the halter on his calf.
Right.
You'll always remember that person.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the better steps that I've seen Extension make recently. And then you're Jason. Well, and then my very first meeting 5 or 6 years ago, you were just leaving Dunn County. And at the county fair, more than once, I would hear, well, Jason just lives up on the hill. If we need some help, we could probably go get him.
I still live there, so yeah, I'm happy to be back.
And there's no fence between your place and the fairgrounds.
Just 1 or 2 with the oaks. That's about it. That's what I'll say. I can throw a ball over the oaks and hit the fairgrounds.
Okay, well, glad to have you back from a fair point of view too. Thanks.
Anyone else have anything for Katie? Okay, thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our interim area extension director. And since Jason, a lot of people here probably don't know you, so if you can make an introduction and just kind of tell us how you're filling in and a little bit of your background, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Zahn and members of the CRT committee. And my apologies. I thought I knew the back way of this building and I got locked out. So I do apologize immensely for I had to run around the building to get back in the front door. So yeah, so and good evening, everybody. Thanks for the time this evening. Jason House, I serve as the area director for Area 7, which is just to the east of this area. Marathon, Clark, Portage, and Wood counties. I still do reside here in Menominee. And so I'm serving as an interim AED for Dunn and Chippewa counties. My counterpart, Kristen Bruder, who was an educator here in Dunn County at one time, is helping with the Eau Claire transition. But we as a team are working on kind of supporting Area 6 and the colleagues and local governments through this transition. So my background, I came to Extension in 2011 as the 4-H educator here. Jumped at it, took a leap of faith as an interim educator for the first year, and then was blessed enough to get the permanent position after. Stayed in that position until I transitioned to the AED role in the summer of 2017. So background in school counseling, master's here from BW Stout, an undergraduate from River Falls. So I have that ag background from that perspective. So I'm blessed to be able to serve in this interim role. I can tell you that this position, the AED position for Area 6, has been posted and is being actively recruited. So that is in process. I believe the application window closes the end of this month. I can't tell you exactly how that search and screen process will go, timeline for interviews, but I'm dedicated to being here as long as it needs to have that person in that position and get them off the ground and make sure that they're successful working with the staff and working with all of you. So thank you for that. So I think the piece that I wanted to convey and jumping right in, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is the question about how we're going to fill it. I don't have an answer right now. What I can tell you is I have a meeting next week with Heidi Johnson, who's the Ag Institute Director, along with Kristen Bruder, to devise what that plan looks like. In the immediate future, to Katie's point about the other educators in this area being able to serve in kind of a backfill capacity, Jared Clark with crops and soils, Lissa Seafelt with dairy and livestock. I can tell you that, and Michelle being the point person to steer those questions that come into our office where they need to go. I hope that the community sees no gap in services during this interim, or even when Katie is out across the pond doing her work and presenting, that we can still meet the needs of our constituents as fast as they're accustomed to Katie getting back to them through work with Jerry and Lissa and other folks that are in Ryan's Dairy to the west. So that's what I can update you on that. I don't know if there's other questions that you have about that. I will know more come next Wednesday when I meet with Heidi directly. And kind of look at what that plan looks like. I can't tell you for certain what it looks like.
The county position be posted as master's required and master's.
I would say that our educators are posted as bachelor's required, master's preferred. We used to be a master's requirement. And to be honest, there was discussion during a meeting last week about our candidate pools and attracting qualified talent. That is a struggle. You probably heard it time and time again. Attracting good talent is a challenge. Compensation packages, benefits packages, hiring bonuses, sign-on bonuses, you name it, it's been talked about on our HR channels. I don't know. My guess is that it'll be typical if there is a county-based educator that is hired, it'll probably be bachelor's required, master's preferred to cast a wider net for recruitment. We do find that when we do that, we get master's preferred. We still get master's level candidates that want to either move, they have family in the area, they're moving back to the area, or I just one recently from California is like, I want to move to Wisconsin. I'm sick of California living and I want to come back to Wisconsin. Yeah, exactly. So it can be reciprocal, right? So I think the piece that I don't know concrete today. I will know more next week when I meet with Heidi. To Katie's point about the transition, effective, I think it's July 5th, you assume your new role. But it's always an extension. It's never a cutoff date. Like Katie will still field calls if she gets them or emails and that sort of thing. And it's always like, how can we set the next person up to be successful and what that plan looks like? So, yeah, sorry, I don't have any more. My interim appointment started officially yesterday, but I actually started that even like last week. And so I'm just trying to get up to speed on where things are at here. So I apologize. I don't have more concrete answers for you this evening on that. So
No, that's helpful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Chair Zons, I don't know what Catherine has reported to the Oversight Committee in the past. If it's okay with you, I would kind of just do a quick rundown of things that I would report to other committees.
That would be fine too. Just also because you're a different person and you're going to have a different perspective and maybe some different information to share. So that'd be great.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So just a quick rundown of the office here in Dunn County. So Louisa assumed her new role as a human development and relationships educator, I think effective on Monday. Was that right? Thank you. I can tell you that right now the 4-H position is I actually just submitted the last revision of the request to fill. So in our operations, I work with the institute director. We submit a form to HR and then HR posts it. All this week or even last week and into this week, I was working on that with HR. Cross the T's and dot the I's that everything is now checked off. So we should be able to see that posted in the next week and a half. I believe that's a vital part of any county 4-H program is having stability in that position. So I work with Matt Calvert, who's the institute director, to get that prioritized, and he gave it the blessing to move it forward. Let's get it going. So timeline of that will be at least a 3 to 4 week posting. There's also a little thing called 4th of July in the middle there. So I don't know what that will look like from a timing perspective of search and screen, review of candidates for interviews, preliminaries, finals, those sort of things. It won't be hired before the county fair. I know it's always the question I get. Will we have somebody for the county fair? I don't believe we will. However, I will be at the county fair because my kids are in the swine project. So I will be there. So I'm happy to field any questions, having served in that role in the past, to bridge that gap in the meantime. And again, I can't express my support enough for Michelle, and thank you for all that she does to keep our office afloat here in the times of 4-H transition. So I mentioned briefly the ag meeting that I have next week with Heidi Johnson to figure out what the staffing plan will look like for ag. It would include Dunn County in all of Area 6, so I will know more after that. The annual report is in your packet. That goes in front of the entire board tomorrow night. And so I will be on that. I will take that meeting remotely because I'm scheduled for vacation, but I believe it's important for me to be on if there's any questions from the board. So I will be on, and Michelle will be on as well. Should there be questions on that, and I appreciate the staff putting that together. It's a well done annual report. So happy to see that. The other thing that I want to make remind you of is you saw an email. I think interim manager manager, not administrator. Nick Lang sent it today on WCA, the new steering committee. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that. I don't know what understanding many of you have about WEXA. You saw that probably buried in that email in the transition. If you want more, I'm happy to have a side conversation about it used to be WASAC, then it was WEXA, and now that's sunsetted. And there's a new steering committee of WCA directly from WCA that they had 5 before. One was on finance, one was on, I don't actually know all those offhand, but so I encourage you, if you're interested to nominate yourself or somebody else for that steering committee. That is due July 1st. So that was in your email today from manager Nick Lang. So those are the quick rundowns that I have that I would report, actually, that I actually did report even to the Clark County Committee yesterday. But if there's questions you have from the organization or feedback that I can take back to administration, as the AED is that liaison to administration, I want to be a sounding board as well. So if there's feedback you have for me, either about the office here, about the organization, I'm happy to take that feedback down, work with my supervisor, Catherine Nicewender, to bring that back, because you are a valued voice in this partnership between the counties and extension. So with that,
Does anybody have any questions for Jason or comments? Think you're off the hook.
all right, that sounds good. And actually, I've made plans that I can stay the entire meeting. So if you have things after the meeting, I'll stick around for a little while and introduce myself some more, and we can chat more if that's, you have questions later on. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll be moving on to rural tourism website update on the agenda. Not much to report. Dave's had a few submissions for content, but it's been going slow. So he's just been slowly kind of accumulating that information to be adding to it. So once again, I kind of encourage people to spread that, the site around, as far as, it's a great way for them to jump in, send information and start to accumulate that information. So it would be nice to get that site launched here before too long, but it needs content. So
I have a question.
yes,
Can you just remind me real quick of what the URL is?
visit dunncounty.com.
Got it. Thank you.
Very easy to remember. So the tourism director at the chamber, Tammy, couldn't be here today, so since we're talking tourism here, she had a couple of updates I thought I'd just share with the committee. Is that they received approval to install some sculptures in 3 parks in Menominee, and these are kind of a extension of the sculpture tour in Eau Claire. So there'll be a dedication event, and they'll send an invite out to the committee for that in case anybody wants to attend. They're working on the 23-24 edition of the Menominee Destination Guide. So if anybody's interested in that, you can contact them. And then also the community fireworks show is coming up on July 2nd at dusk. And the best viewing, of course, is the Wakanda Park Beach. So that's what's happening on the tourism side of things. Does anybody have any other comments or questions about at least visit dunncounty.com or what we're kind of working on for the tourism site? No. So, we're going to move on to the 2023 budgets, and this is the funding request from outside agencies. And I'm going to just because I want to talk about it first, I'll move B up ahead of A on this. When I came in here today, Michelle informed me that some of the libraries have not, for some reason, submitted their budget request prior to this meeting. And she also reminded me that last year that I don't think that we approved those budgets till July, as it was anyway. So if the committee's okay with it, I'm going to put doing the library budget request until next month, and we can send a notice to the wayward libraries that we still would like their budget request if they're interested in in our funding. So do I have to make a motion for that? Okay. Just that we'll table it till next month. So that's what we'll do for the libraries. Going back to A, we also had the for new people on the board, which is mostly Monica. Every year we get funding requests from outside agencies. And back in the old days, when the county had more budget, we used to entertain a lot of funding requests for a lot of different types of agencies, and we would, as a committee, vote on those requests. We'd have a limited pool of money, but we would try to support that. Now, for the most part, because of budget limitations, most of our funding requests are basically relegated to the ones that are more or less somewhat mandatory or by statute. So we don't entertain as many outside funding requests as we have. Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong. Do the two that we have on here with Dunn County Housing Authority and West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, are either of those mandated requests, or are it just the ones that we have continually funded? I'm trying to remember.
I think there is a mandate. People that submitted probably know better.
That's probably true. Are they here?
We
Okay.
have Housing Authority, Tammy online with us. And then Lynn is back there in the crowd.
Okay, wonderful. So maybe we can hear from our two outside agencies that are here then. And let's see, first up,
So we are tabling, we have two requests for tonight. We're tabling
libraries.
library. We have, I guess we have a fourth agency that that's Dunn County Economic Development. Want to table that till next time too? We don't have.
Yeah, we don't have a budget request from them. It's not on the agenda and we haven't had time to review it.
What should I do? Tell me what.
Well, good question. Well, he's got his budget request with him, but we don't really have time to review it. Plus, it's not on the agenda. So I don't know if we move it to next month. Does it matter as far as if we submit that next month with the libraries? Because we really need to have that budget request before we can even, if we want to even talk about it. Yeah, for sure. Because we can't be reviewing it on the spot. So.
That's the only option, yeah.
Well, it's not on the agenda either way, so it can be when Michelle and I put together next month's agenda, we can add it to that agenda. And especially if there's a request for the committee, if anybody on the committee wants us to consider that in next month's agenda, then we would add it to the agenda for discussion. Would somebody like, I don't know if we even have to have a motion on that or just, okay,
I think it would be appropriate to have it on the agenda.
okay. All right, that's what we'll do. In the meantime, let's first, I guess, be going on the order on our agenda. If we could hear from Dunn County Housing Authority first to talk about their request, that would be wonderful.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
So I don't know, it's been a while since we've done this. So I don't know if, like how much information do you want me to read over what I submitted to you, or just open it up for, sorry?
Synopsis of the information, just because there are some newer members on the committee, and it would be good for them to understand a little bit more about what you do and what you're looking for.
Okay. And to answer the question about whether it's mandated, I don't know if that's the the wording for it, but how the Dunn County Housing Authority came into existence is the County of Dunn petitioned the state to create the Dunn County Housing Authority. And part of the federal statutes do say that a housing authority is required to then go to the municipality that they are attached to and ask for supportive funds or, you know, operating support. So I don't know if that would be called mandated, or I don't know enough about reading through all that, but it's basically the equivalent of it in
Right.
how I understand it.
Okay, good.
So just a little bit about what we do. So the Dunn County Housing Authority operates two programs. The primary program is a rent subsidy assistance program. It's called the Housing Choice Voucher Program, also referred to as Section 8. How that works is the participants on our program rent from private landlords, so they choose their housing. They pay 30% of their gross income towards that housing, and then we assist with whatever is left over. The residents that we assist are at 50% of the county median income or less. And we serve every place in Dunn County except for the city of Menominee. Menominee Housing Authority existed about 30 years before us, and so they claim the jurisdiction of the city of Menominee. And so we cover the rest of the county. What else? Oh, so that's the primary program, the rent assistance part. And then we do have a second program that we operate. It's called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. That's a second piece that's it's an optional piece for our voucher holders, and it's a case management program. How that program works is the participants on that program can be on that program for up to 5 years. They work on some goal setting and income based goals in order to work towards self-sufficiency. The primary purpose of that piece of the program is to rotate people off of the program. You know, it gives some incentive for and some assistance for folks to move through the program a little bit faster, and then allow free vouchers for others that are in need. And I mean, that's the basic of the two programs.
And Tammy, I know that we funded you last year. Was it, do you recall if it was the same amount as that you're requesting this year?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes, we stuck with the same amount. And yeah, very much appreciated. I feel like, at least during my time with the Housing Authority, I feel like the relationship with this committee and with the county in general has gotten very strong. So I apologize. I used to come with probably a better report, but now I kind of feel like I've told you guys the same thing so many times. I don't want to, you know, take up an hour of your time reporting all the same stuff again.
Does anybody have any questions for Tammy?
Question. Tammy, two things. Number one, with new housing, rental housing that's being built like in Elk Mound, how that affects your program. And then number two, everybody's cost of living is just jumping like crazy. And what they spend on fuel, they're not spending on other things. How does the big inflation jump in fuel and food affect your program?
Well, your first question about the housing, primarily the one in Elk Mound, kind of pushing from the Elk Mound or the Eau Claire area, that hasn't fully affected us yet. What it will do is, and I've already had landlords talk about, like, there is a landlord in Elkbound that has a property that was built in the 70s that has already told me that they intend to increase all of their rents because of the new projects coming in. So eventually that will just, we kind of have a housing crisis here in Dunn County already. It is extremely difficult to find affordable housing. And these units, from what I understand, the Elkbound units, they're looking at charging more than I pay for my mortgage for a 1-bedroom. So I just think that it's going to be a struggle to keep our voucher holders housed if it continue, like, if their prices create kind of the snowball effect where then other landlords are trying to crank up all of their prices to match these new units. I don't know. And then as far as the inflation, I haven't had, I do have a few of my voucher holders who have talked to me about energy assistance and you know, called me about other needs, and they never applied for any other programs or any other resources in the past, but over the last year, I have had more voucher holders reach out to me saying that they're kind of struggling to make their budget. Primarily, you know, 40% or 30% of their income is what goes towards rent, and then the rest is to cover those other areas. So I don't hear a lot. I don't know a lot about their day-to-day budget. Only the 6 that I case manage on that extra program, we talk a lot about that, and that's just one of those, getting back into, you know, promoting people to get better educational, better job skills so that they can get better paying jobs, because some of the entry-level jobs, just there's just no way you can live off of them if you've got even one child.
Tom? Oh. Any other questions for Tammy? Okay. So I think we need to have a motion whether we're going to approve the budget request as is, whether someone feels it should be adjusted down or up, or I'll entertain a motion. Microphone.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we support them as we had in the past at 46,000. I think it's one of the real good things that Dunn County can do for its residents.
Is there a second? Got a second? Any additional comment or speaking to the emotion? If not, then all those in favor of approving the budget request as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And passes. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you all. And if you do have any questions about the request or what we do or anything, I am always free to phone calls.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the request from West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, and I understand Lynn is here. If you'll come up to she's going to come up to the podium. Jason, you can sit where you are.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to participate in your meeting. My name is Lynn Nelson. I'm the Executive Director of the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, and we are a planning and technical assistance organization that serves 7 counties in West Central Wisconsin, inclusive of Dunn County. We have a staff of 15, and we're governed by a board made up of appointments from each of our 7 counties. In Dunn County, our appointments are Supervisor Quinn, Supervisor Morehouse, and Steve Rasmussen. Our services fall into 4 primary areas, including economic development, transportation, community development, and then natural resources and mapping. And really, when our organization formed, the point behind it was sort of threefold. Counties came together and said, wouldn't it be nice if we had some sort of an organization that covered a larger area where we could pool our resources and have staff with technical expertise in certain areas that it probably doesn't make sense for us to have on our own, that could be available as we needed them. So for especially the rural communities that don't really need a planner 100% of the time, but might occasionally, it's really a nice solution for them. And then we also offer expertise for even larger communities that might not have staff that can fit into that area. Also, we are available to assist units of government when we look at regional types of issues. How can we step in, find funding, help to solve those types of issues? And then also assisting with projects that occur at the local level. Our membership or how we're funded is partly through a membership fee that we charge to our 7 counties, in addition to a variety of other ways. But each of our 7 counties is charged a membership fee that's based on equalized appraised values against a mill rate. The amount for 2023 for Dunn County is $22,600. I believe that's a $300 increase from last year. With those funds, we leverage other types of state and federal funding. We use the match we get from the counties to receive state, federal, and then that money grows to something larger where we can use our staff in an even larger way than if we just received the levy funds. So the packet had some examples of things that we've worked on in Dunn County recently. We'll do much more of that moving forward, some similar, and I assume some new types of projects as well.
Question.
Mhm.
Wasn't your increase last year an increase of $10,000 from the previous year?
No, let me see if I can look at this. So last year, let me see, in 2021, the fee was 21,950. I think we even held that flat. And yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
yeah.
Yes.
What's the percentage increase this year?
I think it's a 2% increase overall, but then that's equalized by the appraised values. And because Dunn County didn't have as much of an increase, yours isn't even 2%. So.
Well, can I complain a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. I think it's a good idea to have diverse opinions on any organization.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from Dunn County, I think you've got a chorus of the same opinion from without being rude. And the reason that bothers me is that one of the early on activities when I first came on the board was the moratorium on CAFOs.
Mm.
And if you look at it from economic development, anytime someone's willing to spend millions of dollars to establish a business in your area, you should welcome them a little bit. But then also you got the resource part of it, and cows produce 2 products, waste and milk, and we know what to do with the milk, and we have a hard time managing the waste. And it was told, in my opinion, I did a lot of asking, that a lot of the work on the Cafo study came from a lot of the work from your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a 6 months moratorium. It passed, the operation is up and running, and they're very discreet at Cranberry Creek. And they don't want a lot of visitors, and they don't make themselves very known. But it was a huge economic development for Dunn County.
Mm-hmm.
And really disappointed, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe your group didn't have it, but have a lot of input on it. But do you have diverse opinions on your board?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. The appointments to our board are made by the counties. So we as an organization don't have control over who is on our board. So Dunn County appoints their appointments to our board, as does all of the other counties. And so, you know, whoever is appointed is who we get. So if you have complaints about your appointments, then you need to go to the county. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I would say too, and then I'll let Mr. Quinn say something if he has it too, is regarding the Cafo study. We did do that study, but it was at the request of the county. And our part was data collection, and many of the decisions that were made as policy as part of those documents are decisions made by a committee that guided the process, not by our staff.
Supervisor Quinn?
Just a quick response. So that, I think Lynn pointed out, the appointments are made by the county. I think that's a legitimate concern if you have it, but it is really a diverse board. I mean, it's a range of opinions and backgrounds and everything. And if you looked at the membership, I think you'd see that, Larry. But with regard to the Cafo study, it's actually a really good example of the kind of benefit that regional planning brings, because it was decided that we needed to step back. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's a good idea. Step back and say, let's take a look at how we are set up with regard to Cafo regulation, and there are legitimate reasons to have thoughtful assessment of that. And I know that you may disagree on this, Larry, but that's my opinion. And what we asked regional planning to do was provide the staff support for the research. And what they did is they brought in people to help us study various aspects of it. And in the end, the report that came out, which they helped write, didn't write completely, it basically provided a pretty good guidance, I think, for how we go forward in improving and working with Cafo operations. So I think it was a really good process, and I'm sorry that you don't. And I don't think that anything out of that came out of that provided any kind of unfair treatment to those operations going forward. So that's my opinion, but you're entitled to yours too. And I need to say also that this committee had identified broadband as a priority last year, and we were kind of flailing as to what to do with it and how to handle it. And we asked regional planning if they could help us not decide what to do, but help us figure out how we could decide what to do. And Lynn and her staff over there really on short notice put together a program for local officials and county board members in Dunn County, which I think provided a real context for how we approach broadband on this committee, and resulted in us being able to get allocation of ARPA funds for a significant expansion of broadband. I'm not sure that would have happened without the technical assistance from regional planning. So. And then the last thing is, and Lynn outlines all of the many benefits, but the other one that I think is timely, given our previous discussion about housing, is helping us, when we ask for help, helping us craft and plan a housing study in Dunn County, a housing study that's aimed at not just looking at the numbers, but aimed at looking for solutions and possible options. And that wouldn't have happened without their commitment to helping us figure out how to get the resources and the staff support. My soapbox is over. I think it's a good organization. There's a great staff. We've benefited from it, and small money they're asking for is quite remarkable, actually, given all the work we get from them.
Well, as long as I'm stepping on toes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step on Extension's toes now,
Okay.
because Extension put a person on to work on broadband, and that was a position that is shared and extension didn't come through for us at all, in my opinion, on broadband. And if it wouldn't have been for your group, we wouldn't have had those dollars that Tom mentioned. And Tom brought that to the board and well, we wouldn't have had the money without him and you. So I wish extension would have had a bigger role in that, but they didn't.
Sure. Point taken. I'm not familiar with who that person is. Can you clarify? So I'm still kind of like feeling this out because when I was here for all them years, I helped get the broadband studies started.
Yeah.
And before I transitioned out. So broadband is something that I know around the state extension is working in. And so I have staff in area 7 that are working in this area as well. So I don't know which person you're referring to so that I can,
guess
so I can follow up on that.
It's Addison was
Okay.
brought back and Dave Bartlett was at county chairman was at a meeting when Addison was brought back, and Catherine gives the boilerplate extension talk about we're going to conference together and we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to assess this and we're going to look at this. And as far as I was ever from there, I don't think it went anywhere. I mean, that is kind of the problem, when you're splitting positions over 2 or 3 counties and each county says, well, we'd like that guy to work on this. Yeah. The other county says, well, we'd like to have that guy look on this. Well, they spend a year finding out what the guy should work on. In the meantime, these folks get the job done.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I just thank you for that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know. So this is good for me to
But extension
move on that.
let out on it big time. But when it got to push comes to shove and dollars to make things happen, they didn't come through, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Lynn? Any comments? Okay.
I'd have moved that we approve the funding request for regional planning.
Do we have a second? Any additional discussion on the funding request? If not, then all in favor of approving the funding request as is, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Nothing. Passes. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, so moving on. We're gonna move the libraries to next month.
Excuse me.
And we're gonna move on to county communications and PR. Yes.
I was wondering, because I see some of the library folks are here. Did they come for a specific, like, or is it, to talk to that item agenda? I don't know,
I don't know,
Does that
because we don't
work?
have we don't have all the,
but I don't know if that, yeah. I was just curious.
like Lisa, we don't have a funding request from Colfax.
Yeah, ready?
Well, but we needed it beforehand so that we could review it and before. Who else are we missing?
Sand Creek.
Okay,
Yeah. That would be.
Okay, but same.
yeah.
I think previously Jim Cook had given reminders about some of the stuff that because of the transition and
I'm the new chair and I probably didn't do a good job, so.
I'm sure would want to have I came here today not realizing that this was what you meant by libraries. I really don't know. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So are you two okay with coming back next month?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then we can make sure that we have everybody's funding request at that point in time. Okay. That's what we're gonna do. I can't see people. I need like a mirror, I should probably do that. I was kind of doing it for like the Zoom thing, so I'm kind of in the middle, so. I do. That's right. That's what Jim Anderson was telling me over the weekend, so. He was, you should have been at the farm breakfast. I go, you drove past my house. You could have picked me up. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the county communications and PR, since we made it an agenda item, and talk about whether this is, is something that the county should, fund as an employee, whether it should be an outside thing. I'm gonna kind of open it up to just discussion to what everybody's thoughts are now that we've had some time to think about it. And I just open it up. Does anybody have thoughts on that? What one might be a good way to approach this? I'll say that Dan Dunbar did volunteer some information that Doug Mell, who used to be the communications guy at Stout, and I think former Leader Telegram reporter, he's hung up his shingles doing PR on the side. So potentially somebody like him might be, depending on his costs or his fees, that's somebody who's pretty well established in Dunn County, has a good reputation for, gathering information, and, especially the reporter instincts would be good. And I haven't done any additional research outside of him, but it's worth considering. Yes.
Thank you. I've been thinking about it, and a part-time position, it'll be hard, I think, to really communicate what the county is doing, because I would think this person would kind of need to understand the workings and the decisions, and like what might be the most important or, interesting to the public, to give them the heads up that this is coming. So maybe we need to think about, what would this person, like, what do we expect? And that would help determine, okay, how many hours, or can we outsource it? Or is it better to have someone here who might be able to attend meetings, or really kind of understand and be able to put the information out there and answer any questions coming to us, maybe.
Well, and I think, potentially someone, you could still outsource it, and part of their responsibilities could still be attending meetings, or even sitting in on them via Zoom or something like that. Or it could be part of communicating with each of the committee chairs to get like a synopsis of what things are going on, and that type of thing. I don't know. There are lots of potential complications and headaches by having a full-time county employee type position, because of it would be a new position that would be created, and then there's the benefit package and all that type of stuff. And so it's like, okay, does it make more sense is this something that could be outsourced? And that's why we're having this discussion.
I think that's the solution, really, is to have it outsourced. And if someone like Doug Mell was available, we'd have an opportunity to find out whether or not this worked by trying it out with somebody who knew the ropes. Sort of. The question I wonder about is, so what would be an example of something that we would want a press release to go out on? I even thought about, is it possible to ask each committee to suggest to us stories that they. What you thought about that? For example, would it be? It's one thing to have a report that says the county board just passed a budget, and these were the issues that came up.
Yeah,
That requires a certain amount of editorial guidance, which has to come from somebody.
right.
And that's, so who is the editor? But there may be other stories like, I remember when I was on the Health and Human Services Committee that Chris Corpola would routinely have tell us the story, have one of the staff tell a story of somebody that got helped by the department.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And these human stories that sort of, this is what county government is about. It's about helping people or making a difference in the community. So how do you find those stories? And is there some way that we could,
I think that almost comes down to whoever the person is in that role.
they've got to find it?
That they have to be the ones that they have to go beyond the county board passed the budget and it said this, this, and this. Nobody really cares about that
Right.
in some regards. What they care about are the real stories, like some of the stuff that Larry brings up all the time about how, somebody in 4-H touched somebody else. If somebody wants to support the funding for 4-H or extension, or the county's involvement with extension, they need to hear those types of stories. Not everybody grew up with 4-H, and maybe people just moving to the county or come from an urban area to have no idea what that's about. But those types of, like you're saying, those types of stories like that shares the county's good news, so to speak, but also ferreting out the stuff that's more complicated. Okay. It's like if it comes up again that there's going to have to be some sort of mask mandate, or the county is going to control something having to do with racing or whatever, communicating that in a way that it's not just dry boilerplate, but is informative, gets the point across and explains it well, takes someone with, that kind of professional background. And it also takes that person to maybe go through some of these meeting minutes and say, hey, I see you passed this on the PR&D committee. Sounds kind of interesting. What can we say about this change in zoning, because it's informative, that type of thing. So I think that whoever's in this role almost has to have a little bit. It's not that they would totally choose these things, that maybe it would be something that they would answer back to this committee on some degree, or be able to run it past certain people, or could also work in conjunction with the new social media policy that the county passed, so that they can say, I think this is a good thing to pass out there, and then someone can say, yeah, run with it, and so they're not totally having to act on their own. Larry?
Mr. Chairman. Those personal stories, those how this affects me, how this affects my family. We used to hear that at the county board meetings. Whether it was a person that was zoning to have more rental units, or whether it's somebody that's saying, my son races on Friday night and his dad did and his grandpa did. I'd sure hope that you people can support us. Or if such and such changes zoning and this business goes here, this is how this affects me and my family. Well, we've pushed all that stuff to committee meetings. And it's like we can take Tom's recommendation from his committee and or Health and Human Services, and just say, well, our committee voted unanimously to do this. Well, our job as supervisors is to listen to the members of the county with their concerns. And if you tell the members of the county with their concerns, you can bring a concern and talk to 5 or 6 people and tell us what you think about 4-H. Or is it more effective if that person comes to the county board meeting and the kid stands up there and gives the speech that they give, and says, you know, this is what 4-H means to me, and this is what 4-H means to my family. This is what racing means to me. This is how this zoning would negatively affect my family. And you speak that to 29 people, that gives that person, and you know, you use it, and other people use it, the hotspot. Well, it ain't a hotspot. It's a huge opportunity to express your opinion. I mean, it's like a gift you never get other than showing up on the third Wednesday and saying, by golly, I just love racing. Or if they put in that septic system business next to me, I just, you know, or if they put in, I don't want all that cow manure next to me. We need to hear about it from the people, not just our little bit. Now, I don't know how it changed or why it changed. Pessimistic me says, well, you know, there's a stop time to the meeting set before the meeting starts. And I don't particularly care for that, but that's what it's become.
Well, I think it's a little off the track, but
Yeah.
I think that some of that changed during like the pandemic thing, because we also eliminated the standing committee reports that we had, and the meetings got shorter. But I think that's that might be something that our county board chair may want to revisit, as far as that, having that type of, you know, response. I think, you know, kind of getting back to what we're talking about here is that, you know, we're talking about, if people aren't going to these standing committee meetings, like you're talking about, you know, talking to like 6 people or so, it's a way for us to communicate a little bit more about what's being talked about. Because a lot of times these things on the agenda, like this, might be something that is on a couple of different meetings. And so if people actually knew that this was coming up, they could participate with it a little bit more than, you know, or learn more about it beforehand, have more of a chance to react to it before it even gets to the point where it gets to the county board at that point. So, and it could also be some of what we're trying to communicate is educating people, saying, you know, okay, by the time it gets to the county board, it's tougher to react to change. So if you really are concerned about a zoning request change, or you're concerned about what's going on with extension, make a point to attend one of these standing committees, and helping educate people in the county so that they know that there are more opportunities to participate from the ground level. This just came up with the meeting last week with the executive committee, right? That there were actually a couple of public comment speakers that spoke, and I'm not used to having people even at most standing committee meetings having a public comment or speaker, except for during a judiciary and law committee meeting where a guy was very disgruntled and we thought we were all going to die because he had just gone and bought several firearms that day, and so the sheriff had to escort him out of the meeting. So that was a little bit of scary type of public comment, but kind of to your point, helping the citizens in the county learn more about, here's what the county board does. And if you really want to affect change, almost don't even wait for just the main county board meeting, but, you know, attend a meeting that is focused on the thing that you're concerned about. And the only way that people know that is by us informing them of that. So, I think some of like you're bringing up, Larry, some of the concerns were changes that have occurred over the last 3-4 years with not having as much public participation as we've had before. And, you know, that's kind of, I think that's probably more controlled by the chair and the county manager more than anybody else, and it would be good topics to bring up to them if we want to change some of the county board meeting stuff, though. But I think that what we're talking about here can hopefully get people so that maybe they're even more participatory at the standing committee level, so that they know, okay, I have a concern about zoning. I'm gonna go to a PRD meeting as opposed to the county board, because I want to voice my opinion before it gets even out of the subcommittee.
So one way to frame this is that we would request a budget allocation of a certain amount of money to do a pilot project to explore having a contracting for some kind of I don't know what you call it, but
Communications and PR.
communications and PR for the county,
Yeah.
and that would be done through our committee. And we would somehow or other have, we would have some kind of editorial control. I mean,
Editorial control and oversight.
oversight. I think is right.
And maybe it would be, and it could be that when before stories are submitted or run or something like that, they are, passed to the chair and the vice chair of the committee potentially to review, say, yep, looks good, let's run with it. Because it couldn't be something that would just have to wait for the committee meeting,
Right.
because, my goal would be to have this person communicate these things on a fairly timely basis.
Right.
So that people, would have time to go to, it's like, okay, the PR&D committee is considering something to do with extending a permit on or changing.
Well, so PRD would be a good example, because we do have a lot of a fair amount of public commentary, but we're going to be looking at whether or not the county should amend its agricultural entertainment ordinance, which has to do with a lot of things that are happening out in the countryside. And we will get people who will come to testify on that, but it would be good if before that public hearing happened, people were more than rather than just a notice in the paper, which nobody ever looks at.
No,
There's actually something that says, look, this is going to come up this month. These are the issues. If you're interested in this, pay attention for the packet when it comes out, and there's going to be a public hearing. There's an opportunity for public comment. And here's what the issues are, kind of.
yeah, I think that this person or firm or whatever would serve that stuff where it's like, yeah, I know this has been published in the paper, but here it is in a more of a engaging format. So it's like, hey, do you have interest in this? Might be a good idea for, to learn more about what the committee's up, and write it in more of a newsy type of format,
Yeah.
with even a quote from either somebody that's up or even yourself, the committee chair, or something along those lines. But then in addition to that, reporting on the things that the committees or the
Came
county
out of
has
it.
done. And it's like, okay, this is what's going on. And especially things that are complicated, where there is the misinformation and disinformation out there, kind of to get ahead of that. And so that people are saying, well, they're doing this, this is actually what the county's doing. And just so that understand it, that type of thing. So it's kind of both things. It's
So
like,
Jim, how does so we did that, and we had somebody, and they were doing this. There's two things that got to happen then. In addition, one is that there's got to be somehow the article, the topics have to be identified. And would that be something that would? How would that happen? Would the individual, or would that be something that come through the committee too?
I think that that some of that can come through this committee as far as like topics. I think some of it can come from as they study either agenda or minutes from committees, or I think it's also going to be imperative for each of the standing committee chairs to identify some of these things and say, hey, this is what's on the agenda. I think this might make a real good informational or news story that should be shared out there.
And then the second thing is what's the format or the medium for distributing this? I mean, we can send it as a press release to the one paper that covers, or the two papers that kind
Yeah.
of cover our area.
Well,
But wouldn't we want something on the website that was like
For
a
sure.
regular?
I would think that would be a regular part of like the Visit Dunn County site is
Okay,
is a kind of like a county government watch or government corner, where it's like you're learning about the county from there, just from, part of the role of that site is not only just it geared toward visitors or tourists, but it's also economic development to some degree, but it's also information.
Right.
And that's important information for, we want to encourage people that aren't just, visitors to Dunn
I
County,
think
but
it's a great
also
idea. Yeah.
having people that are county residents. This is the place that you can go and learn more about this stuff, because there isn't an outlet really that, Dunn County News doesn't exist. You have the Glenwood and Colfax papers are pretty much the only outlet, but then a lot of people aren't buying those papers. So there's
Right.
not really anything else. So I would think that having that distribution there also to, the two Eau Claire TV stations, sometimes they will, carry different stories like that. Having someone that can write that stuff. I know that I used to write a ton of press releases about my business to the Dunn County News, and I would write the article, and they would run it almost all the time because they didn't have to do any work. All I had to do is just put it in there with the photo, and it was written. And so having somebody that has that ability would at least get it into what existing press is out there. But I would also then want them to put it on the Visit Dunn County site as a, an official medium. It could potentially also go on the county's own
You
site.
could have a spot on there that
Yes.
people could look to. Yeah.
Yep, and also on Facebook, and then just through social media as well. So it's got a number of different outlets. So it would be kind of key for this individual or entity would have to be able to do that, be able to be versatile enough to do the sharing and all the different types of media that would be out there.
Yeah, I think social media is really important. And these little personal stories really lend themselves to nice little Facebook posts that just get fed out continuously. I think it could be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, again, whoever that person or entity is, but I think I like your idea that, recommending like a pilot projects to try this out. Let's see how this goes and how it works, and whether it's like whether it's like whether we like there's some funding left over from like the website. I wouldn't say website development. We had $10,000 that this committee had budgeted towards economic development. A portion of that has gone toward the website. There is a chunk of it left. About, let's see. Like $4,200 of that remaining.
Don't we need that to continue?
We need a portion of that to
Okay.
continue with the website. It would also be, okay, would this individual or person or entity, would they then take over? That would be part of their responsibility. Also would be maintaining the information on that site.
I like that idea if it's possible. Yeah.
So,
But we're talking about more than just a few $1,000s here.
right, I'm just saying that there is a little portion of that left over. And it also depends on where we take some of the funding. Now, we had in 2021. We had funded like economic development, like $65,000, and then the exec committee and Mr. Miller took that away and dropped it to 10, and was going to put it toward the Greater Menominee Foundation. And then this committee made a stink about that, and we the money got sent back to the committee for us to use as we
Right, that $10,000.
that was the $10,000. Then this past year, we went ahead and then did fund economic development for, I think, $55,000 out of the 65, I think, that they had asked for. You know, this time around, we didn't get a funding request from them. Do we take a portion of that and put it toward this instead?
Well,
Or do we?
it sounds
or do
like
we-
you are gonna, I don't know if you, I guess we should talk to Gary about this probably, he's our only board member on the EDC board, I think now.
He is, right.
Yeah. But that, I mean, that's a good question. Do we want to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Have there been meetings? Oh, okay.
Well, you're on it. That's right, I forgot. Have you gone to many meetings? So that's so disappointing, but not surprising.
So I mean, and that's why I kind of bring this up as a consideration. It concerns me that you know, no offense, Bob kind of got pulled out of retirement and is kind of chairing economic development, but we didn't even get a budget request. And I know that he was aware of it last week because Gary Steen approached me and said, I hope you guys are going to fund it. I said, we haven't gotten a request. So is that money better spent toward this?
Yeah, no, and honestly, we have.
And that's why I wanted to at least bring up that discussion.
Yep.
Is that a better use of money toward what is communicating this better for economic development than funding a part-time economic development corporation? I'm just tossing it out there. I just wanted people's opinion.
I think funding this is more important. And I have leaned the other way before, but
Yeah.
I think I've kind of.
I mean, if we decide that we go, okay, we have obviously the county has a limited pool of money. We did get that funding approved last year. And how much do we think that we need to do toward this pilot project? Would it be something on that order? I would think of that amount. Would it be easier to get that passed if it's like, okay, this is where we're going to put our funds this year, because we think that this benefits economic development and so much more for the county.
So
I'm putting it out to you. You guys
Can this, so, there's a lot of boards that are kind of outside of our standing committees. Can we ask this person to kind of report on what Dunn County Economic Development is doing, so that, that might help us actually on the board
Mhm.
in some sense. But yeah, I don't know if that's something, but I
Well,
think
we're
this is probably
we're
more-
creating this kind of communications and PR position out of whole cloth. It's in that individual. It's whatever we decide that is important for. It comes down to the county has a communication problem and a PR problem, and this is a great way to address that. And if we address communication and PR for the county, does that in turn impact and help economic development for the county better than a part-time agency at this point? Or do we as a committee go, you know what, we're going to fund both?
Yeah. So I mean, Bob is back with a request
Mhm.
next month, and I think that's to be expected. Yeah, I don't- it's gonna be a tough discussion. No, I mean, it's gonna be, I'm,
Because you can see valid points of both ways, right?
well, I struggle with the Economic Development Corporation. We haven't, Bob hasn't hardly come to any meetings and done it. The reports he's given us been, I think they've been terrible, frankly, very
Mhm.
unprofessional and incomplete. And he doesn't seem to pick up that's the case. And
Well, he's retired and he kind of came out of retirement to,
I know, but you know,
And-
he was, I mean, I'm not gonna get into that, but it doesn't surprise me, put it that way, that
Yeah.
that's the kind of performance we're getting, but it's not acceptable, you know?
no, it's not. And, you know, I work with the Chippewa County Economic Development Corporation hires me every year to do their videos and their presentation. And they make such a big deal out of it. They get all this business. They have the governor come talk at their annual meeting every year. And it doesn't matter whether it was Scott Walker or Tony, each governor comes in and attends. And there's no way that there's that big of a difference. I would think Dunn County actually has more benefits for a business location. We're closer to the Twin Cities. We're also on a rail line. We're right on I-94. So we have much better benefits. The industrial park is right there. I mean, it's, you know, there's no reason why we are losing out economically to Chippewa County. Dunn County should run circles around that. And I think it has everything to do with that leadership at the organization. So my feeling is, especially when there wasn't that, I felt pressured to move it into next month's thing because you said so. But I was going to, when I saw we didn't even have it, I was just going to suggest that we just put that money toward doing this PR person or position this year, as opposed to spending it on economic funding that position over there.
You know, we didn't make a motion on that. So that was just discussion.
What, as far as the agenda?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we can always just not put it on the agenda. So if we decide to in this meeting, that would make more sense. I'm like I said, I'm just throwing this out here for discussion, that it's on the agenda. When I realized, which me last week, during the executive meeting, and said, hey, I want this on there. I said, well, we haven't gotten a funding request. The last two, community resource and tourism, he hasn't been to our committee. I don't even know what's going on. I said, if he wants to fund that, we need that before the meeting. And we didn't have it before the meeting. And that made up my mind at that point, because if it's not that important to you to get us this beforehand, and then I would rather us spend that money on this that I think is a better use of funds.
Yeah. Well,
I've always wondered if for the Dunn County Economic Development, if we can put metrics, because we provide money, but we never really hear like, okay, how many businesses were brought here? How much does that equate to tax revenue? You know, like what is that money getting us? So I don't know if we can actually put requirements
Right.
on, like
Well,
saying, I want to, like, this has to pay for itself.
Well, right, because that's, I mean, like I said, when I do that thing for the meeting for Chippewa County, you know, it's a big part of that presentation is, here are all the businesses. Here's the economic impact that having the new Fleet Farm Distribution Center. Why is that in Chippewa County and not in Dunn County? You know, but those things are outlined, so people there know exactly during that meeting what the Economic Development Corporation is up to, and how they're doing things.
so the pushback will be, well, what's the budget for the Economic Development Corporation in Chippewa County? And how much of that comes from the county? And
Right. So why not why is Dunn County not doing this, a similar type of funding mechanism? If CHIP was funded partly by maybe business or dues or whatever.
But I'm sure the county puts in, typically the counties around here put in. But they get better performance than we've gotten. And they get better matching funds from other local industry who are bought into it.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do that here. Yeah. Well, I think it's okay to have, I think we have to have the discussion. I don't think it would be very. Not having had this, if we'd had this discussion before, I realized that Bob hadn't got his budget in, I probably would have said, let's have this discussion. And then we can decide if we want to go that way.
Yeah.
But we're going this way now. But now I think we probably have to have.
Well, here's what is that we can today decide whether or not we want to do this pilot position for community communications and PR and decide what we want to budget towards that. And then next month, Bob can if he gives a glowing, just an incredible presentation on what's going to happen with economic development, then at that time we can decide if we're going to fund that too. But maybe we don't. What?
Go to page 9. This thing, and you'll see how Dunn County compares in economic development with other counties. And just look at it. I mean,
Yeah.
Dunn County isn't even close in last place.
I mean, we're not getting loan requests from Dunn County for the regional loan fund. We're not getting requests for the emergency funds from Cafo relief or from virus relief fund. It's just so if what sounds like we're saying is that we would like to go ahead with this and include in it some kind of economic development component that is a better community that include, well, that's all I guess would be. We don't know what this can look like yet, but expect that this position, this project, this pilot project would incorporate promotion of economic development in the county in some capacity.
Yes. And I think just by existing and communicating county business, that's going to tangentially benefit economic development in the county, because it's going to be just more informative for people to know and businesses to know what the counties are. So there can be that some part of that economic development can be part of that. It is what is getting communicated, especially whatever the standing committees are working on that. Especially your committee with PR&D is going to have could be, if there's business expansion or things like that, that's going to really be talking about economic development in the county. But even the tourism aspect of it too.
Yeah,
communicating tourism is big, and there's more opportunity for communicating what's going on as far as tourism is concerned in the county. That's all economic development right there.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It's frustrating that we have, for example, have a major development of a cheese company processing plant in our community with a retail store, and it's a creamery that's done it, regional business. But I haven't seen any PR about that really.
No.
Oh, you're right.
No. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to be excused, not
Yeah.
for my own benefit, but next January, when those cows need hay, I will mention to them, I'll be able to help you out, but I gotta be on the baler at 7 o'clock.
Holy shit!
So,
I don't envy you, Muddy.
and tomorrow it's gonna get rain or washed
Yeah,
again.
yeah, you gotta go. Get out of here.
You are excused. You will still have a forum here for making the decisions. Do we want to have any additional discussion about this position? Do we want to make a motion to forward forward to the executive committee? That's where I guess it would have to go, right? Creating a pilot project and what's the amount that we would put toward that? I think it would be something, it would almost have to be something on the order of what we funded the Economic Development Corporation for, like 55,000 or 60
Yeah, I
seems
would
to
say
be a
something in that area
reasonable
to start with.
amount.
So the question I have is, do we what are we gonna need to persuade the board that they should support this? More than just a resolution from us, I think it has to be some kind of a prospectus of some kind. And I think we maybe need to discuss it more. So we could, I don't know how that gets put together, but it's got to at least be a sort of
Almost like a
one-page-
definition of what exactly this either entity or person or whatever would
I think
do.
we think of it as a project. Now, the way we're talking about it, becomes a project
Yeah,
to hire, has the contracts with for a position. That's the way it seems to me.
yeah.
So we have to describe the project in at least one page with some bullet points, and maybe that's something we can get close to. I don't know when that it would have to be. I mean, I'd make the motion to support this project at $50,000, but we've got to come up with
What and the
a
definition
description.
of the project.
Yeah, and a justification for it, an argument for it. But that, and we don't have to do it today.
Yeah,
Because I'm not sure, when do we have to get requests into the county? Do you know? I should know that.
Or budget, well, the county budget workshop will be that August 13th. Committees are not acting on the department budgets before then, or at all, specifically, so it'll just be that August county budget.
That's for so we're gonna come that day, we're gonna act on the. Okay,
Go through the details.
so this would be like the broadband thing, kind of. Where we're saying that we want to do a separate, not part of the departments, but committee proposal. And I think that would probably have to get in time for it to be circulated with when is the budget hearing? Is it in August?
Yeah, August 3rd, well, the workshop is August 13th,
13th.
so.
Just in terms of deadlines, it seems like we have to bring it to the exit.
yeah. Unfortunately, the meeting this month fell after the executive meeting because of just the way June days worked, because of our second
Yeah.
Tuesday of the month. And I don't know if next month,
Are we
are we
before it?
meeting before the executive committee next month? Is that,
July, the exec and county board got bumped back. So executive committee next month is the 20th, and we are meeting on the 12th.
okay,
So let's try and put together that proposal for next meeting.
yeah. And maybe what we can do is if everybody in this committee, I will volunteer to come up with this document. If everybody on the committee can then submit like suggestions or ideas of what you guys think that this role should entail, I can then put that document together. We can fine tune it and potentially pass it if we choose to at our next meeting, and then it can go in front of the executive committee in July, and then could then potentially be talked about at the budget workshop in August.
Can we, get an estimate of like the cost per hour from, maybe.
I'll reach out to,
Yeah,
I'll reach
good
out to
idea.
Doug.
Or, you know,
Yeah, yeah, I'll read, because, well, it could be like whatever the cost per hour is, and okay, if we're gonna spend 50,000, how many, how many hours is that going to get us?
you know,
And is that going to be something that, that he does? And he's the only, I haven't really done any other additional research. There could be other individuals that are doing this that could fit into that role too, or companies. I'm thinking about a couple, but he might be ideal just because of his long standing ties here in Dunn County, and but I can reach out to him for sure.
Wonder if Leanne Ralph would leave the newspaper. Probably would.
She might,
I actually can't believe Carlton pays her very well.
or maybe this is something she does in addition to that.
Yeah.
So, because, yeah, she would also be
She'd be
ideal.
another person.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that when we're working up this little proposal, in addition to talking about the role and what the responsibilities are, we should pay a lot of attention to our argument for why we need position, right? Motivate it, and be sure to do it in a way that resonates with the whole board. I think that some of the reasons that have been given might not resonate with some people. The parts about misinformation and disinformation related to campaigning, right,
Mhm.
might be a little dicey. But there's arguments that could be made differently.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a point. And it will massage that wording so that that it still appeals to a majority of the county board. I think there may be people that maybe just don't accept that premise that this is a needed thing anyway. So, but I think that just knowing enough of the people on the board that there's enough people that realize, hey, this is, and it also could be some people that maybe ran for the county board and now that are a part of it, maybe learning, hey, this isn't quite what I thought it was, as far as it's not, it's not run in a poor way, or there are things that are actually getting done that are efficient or whatever. So they actually may agree to that, just because they might see that the things I thought were happening are not happening because of information that was out there that I now realize was not correct.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's right.
I think the tricky part is
Mike,
do this without.
your microphone.
Well, to do this without in a way that increases trust rather than raises suspicions.
Well, that's the whole thing. I want this to increase trust. That's kind of my whole position with this, is that there have been a lot of increased suspicions about what's the county up to. And there hasn't been a vehicle for the county to say, here's what we're up to, and here's how it's benefiting you, or here's a difficult thing that we're dealing with, but we're informing you of the difficult process that we're going through right now, so they're aware of it.
So, a good example, at the last month's meeting, we asked the capital improvement plan. And there were 7 dissenting votes. I think all of those 7 were people who I think our good friend here voted against it, but other than that, I think there were new members to the board.
Right.
And that plan is worthy of some public relations.
Right.
So how do you do that in a way that the 7 people that voted against it don't feel like they're being ignored?
You know what? It really doesn't matter that if they think they're being ignored, because they're not.
As long as
As long as it's an honest, fair conversation about information.
Idealist.
Yes. So you have to be a little bit of an idealist if you are on the county board. I mean, it's a high paying job and you know, and you get all the accolades and so, but I don't want to say I don't care, but I don't. I really don't. If someone gets their nose bent out of shape because we're, you know, that the county's sharing truthful, honest information about what the county's up to, I don't care. Then don't be part of the county then. Don't be part of, you know, or if you don't like it, you know, communicate what your opposing viewpoint, so to speak.
Put that in there.
Right.
It's gotta be as thoughtful as the rest of it.
Yeah, and it could be that whoever, you know, if that person like the capital improvement project, I think weren't we discussing that well before the election? So a lot of the people that maybe were new to it, well, you were new to it, so may not have been totally informed as to exactly. I mean, we had a lot of discussion about, you know, the benefits and why we're doing things the way that we are and that type of thing. And so it's important to share that information, but also, I guess, you know, whoever's doing the communication and PR, if there is a dissenting viewpoint, that could also potentially be included as well, as long as it was based on facts. If their dissenting viewpoint was based on, you know, disinformation, we're not going to be party to. I don't think what we want to do is combat misinformation and disinformation and be truthful and honest about what we're promote honest dialogue. And I think that a lot of the reaction to thing is because there was no counter programming to the disinformation.
Similar thing happened with the vote on the wheel tax.
Yes.
Where there was a minority of the board that voted against it. And that also would be worthy of a article. I think you know, Jason's Justin, the highway commissioner.
Yeah.
His explanation of the condition of our roads and the need for resources and the fact that despite of the legislature saying they're willing to help us, they haven't helped us.
Right.
Those are facts.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's where this is especially important, are on those difficult things like that, where and misinformation gets spread, and there is no, I don't want to say positive spin, because it's not spin, it's just information. Tell people complain about the roads and, you know, or complain about wheel tax. I say, do you know that right now, I can't remember if this is, but I remember one of those meetings, he said that the Dunn County road system is on it like a 78-year replacement. And they'll say, what? So the roads are only replaced with the current funding levels every 78 years. So most of them will be gravel or dirt before they can be replaced because of budget constraints, mostly from the state. And then they instantly realize that, oh, yeah, I guess we need more funding, because when that's the number one complaint I get besides lack of broadband is County Road B. Why is it so awful? Why is the crossing there at holes? And then I explain the funding and the 78-year thing. The 78-year thing, eyes go boom, and they light up. So communicating those difficult things like that in a way that makes sense. Good quote, that 78-year thing, people will go, oh, I get it. They may not necessarily still be happy about it, but they understand it more.
And I think his annual report maybe is in our packet for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if this person can like distill that down and make it. Because I think
so it's not just like, you know,
it's not this long,
mhm,
you know, 10-page report or
because
whatever.
nobody's going to read that.
They can
But
summarize it.
a fun, you know, a quote from him like that, and then a shot of County Road B with the giant pothole by the railroad tracks by I-94, that sells it right there. That's like, okay, I understand it. Don't like it, but now I get it at least. Okay, so where did we leave this now? So we're gonna, do we have to make a motion or are we just
Not
gonna
yet.
include it on our agenda
Yeah.
next? We'll include it in our agenda. So, any announcements from anybody? Jim Anderson, the former chair, says hello to everybody. He was holding down the fort at Jake's till late at night, consuming many of us.
Is he hanging out there?
Oh, yes. Like I said,
Good to stop.
he went to the Dunn County Dairy Breakfast and drove past my house and didn't pick me up, so. Next meeting date will be July 12th, Tuesday at 4:30. 4:30. Yes, today it was supposed to be. So. Everybody okay with 4:30? I'm just trying to get Michelle, and if 4:45, I figures 4:30 is not any much
No,
difference, so.
Earlier the better. I think.
Yes. Then if there's nothing else, meeting's adjourned.